a Coldplay concert, a kiss cam, and a moment that unraveled two careers. One flash on the Jumbotron, and suddenly, a CEO and his HR director were caught in a moment they couldn't take back. The fallout, public scandal, corporate chaos, and an unexpected cameo from Gwyneth Paltrow. This isn't just a workplace drama. It's a story about exposure, influence, and how fast one mistake can go global. It was supposed to be a night of music and magic. Coldplay had taken the stage in front of thousands of fans. The energy was electric, the lights pulsed with color, and the crowd swayed to the music. Amid the excitement, the stadium's Jumbotron flickered between shots of fans singing along, and, of course, the ever-popular kiss cam. The camera swept over the audience, pausing on smiling couples, prompting laughter, cheers, and a few sweet moments of shared affection. Then it landed on one couple, a man and a woman, seated close together, heads tilted in, faces nearly touching. At first, it looked like the usual romantic pairing, but what happened next changed everything. The man noticed the camera first. His eyes flicked to the screen, and within a second, he sharply pulled away. The woman glanced up, saw the Jumbotron, and stiffened. The tension was immediate. Both of them froze, then subtly adjusted their positions, turning their bodies slightly away from each other, avoiding eye contact with the screen, nervously smiling. The reaction wasn't shy or bashful. It was uncomfortable. Too uncomfortable. And the crowd noticed. The internet noticed. Phones were already recording. Within minutes, videos of the awkward interaction began circulating online. Theories started to swirl. That wasn't just awkward, that was guilty. Are they married? But not to each other? Why did they pull away like that? What seemed like a fleeting moment of unease became the spark for something much, much bigger. It didn't take long for internet detectives to identify the couple in the video. Within 24 hours, names were circulating on Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok, and they weren't just random concert goers. The man was Byron, the CEO of a fast-growing tech company called Astronomer. The woman, Kristen Kitt, the company's head of human resources. That detail alone lit a fire under the rumor mill. Not only were they high-ranking executives at the same company, but their specific roles made things complicated. Byron, the CEO, was at the very top of the food chain. And Kit, as head of HR, she was responsible for enforcing workplace policies, especially those relating to employee conduct, ethics, and, yes, disclosures of romantic relationships. Speculation exploded. Were they in a secret relationship? Had they disclosed it internally? Was this some kind of power imbalance? Or worse, had their personal relationship influenced business decisions? That kiss cam moment suddenly took on a whole new weight. It wasn't just awkward, it was potentially unethical. Anonymous comments, allegedly from insiders at Astronomer, began surfacing online. Some said this wasn't a new development. They've been seen together outside of work before. One comment read, "It's been going on for months." Others claimed the pair had traveled together for conferences and offsites, often booking the same hotels or extending business trips under vague pretenses. But it was what didn't exist that raised the biggest red flag. No record of the relationship being disclosed to the board, no mention in HR logs, nothing official. And that was a problem. At many companies, especially those operating in high-growth sectors like tech, workplace relationships are allowed, as long as they're disclosed, especially when they involve power dynamics between executives. The idea is transparency and protection for the company, for other employees, and for the people involved. Byron and Kit hadn't done that, or at least, if they had, it hadn't been documented. Now, thanks to a stadium camera operator with impeccable timing, their situation was viral. The fallout was already building behind the scenes. The internet might have thought it was just a juicy story, but inside Astronomer, things were about to get serious. While the internet speculated and social media boiled over with theories, something much more serious was happening behind closed doors at Astronomer. Internally, the leadership team had entered full-blown crisis mode. What had started as a funny, viral moment was now threatening the company's reputation and its legal standing. This wasn't just about optics anymore. It was about trust, ethics, and compliance. Within 48 hours of the video going viral, Astronomer launched a formal internal investigation. Sources familiar with the company's operations described an atmosphere of tension and urgency. The board of directors reportedly held emergency meetings. Lawyers were brought in. PR advisors were looped into confidential briefings. HR personnel were questioned, some of whom had reported directly to Kristen Kitt. The focus of the investigation was clear. Did a personal relationship exist between Byron and Kitt? Was it ever disclosed? And if it wasn't, had that relationship affected internal decisions like promotions, hiring, or salary negotiations? Company chat logs were reviewed, Slack messages, calendar invites, email threads, travel expenses. Nothing was off limits. Reports suggest that Byron and Kitt had frequently traveled together for conferences and industry events. While not unusual on its own, the frequency and pattern raised eyebrows. They often left early together, returned late, and booked accommodations at the same hotels. The investigation also expanded to look at complaints from other employees. Were there any previous reports of favoritism, any HR issues that had been brushed aside? Had anyone raised concerns about the relationship before the video? One anonymous employee told a tech blog, "People had been whispering about it for a while. It was always kind of obvious, but no one wanted to be the one to report it. Especially since she was HR." Another said, "We all saw the video. It confirmed what many of us had already suspected." The internal probe wasn't just about morality, it was about governance. A CEO is expected to set the tone for the entire company. And the head of HR, they're meant to enforce that tone. If the two of them were breaking the rules together, it meant no one else could trust the system. And if there was one thing Astronomer's board couldn't tolerate, it was a collapse in trust. The internal investigation didn't drag on for months. It moved fast. The company needed to contain the damage before it got worse, and that meant making decisions quickly and publicly. On July 19th, Astronomer released a brief but unmistakable statement. Andy Byron has tendered his resignation, and the board of directors has accepted. The wording was cold, deliberate, and the next line made it even clearer. Mr. Byron failed to meet the company's standards of conduct. There was no sugarcoating. He wasn't stepping down to pursue new opportunities. This wasn't a peaceful departure. This was a corporate pushout. Almost immediately, Byron's name was scrubbed from Astronomer's website. His LinkedIn profile was updated. No farewell post, no press conference, no explanation. Just silence. But the story wasn't over, because just days later, Kristen Kitt also vanished from the company's leadership page. Unlike Byron's very public exit, hers was quieter, almost too quiet. There was no official announcement, no carefully worded resignation letter, just disappearance. Her LinkedIn eventually updated, but there was no fanfare, no acknowledgement, nothing. Some speculated that Kitt's departure was handled more discreetly to avoid legal complications, especially given her role as head of HR. Others believed she might have negotiated a settlement in exchange for silence. But whether it was mutual, negotiated, or forced, it was clear. Both of them were gone. In the space of 1 week, Astronomer lost its two most powerful executives. The CEO and the head of HR erased from the company they once led. And the trigger? Not a board vote. Not a lawsuit, not even a whistleblower complaint. Just a kiss cam. A few seconds of accidental exposure at a Coldplay concert had detonated the careers of two high-level executives, embarrassed a rising tech company, and left an entire industry wondering what would happen next. But no one, not even the internet, could have predicted who would enter the story next. Just when the internet thought the story had peaked, Gwyneth Paltrow showed up. Yes, that Gwyneth Paltrow. The Oscar-winning actress, wellness mogul, and founder of Goop. Suddenly, she was front and center in a video posted on Astronomer's official channels. In the now viral clip, Gwyneth sits calmly in a minimalist office space. Dressed like a tech exec on Casual Friday, she looks directly into the camera and says, "Hi, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. I've been hired on a very temporary basis to speak on behalf of the 300-plus employees at Astronomer." For a moment, viewers were stunned. Was this a deepfake? A parody? An SNL sketch? But no, it was real. Paltrow had somehow been pulled into this unfolding workplace drama, and she wasn't addressing the scandal at all. Instead, she launched into a dry, corporate-style monologue. She talked about Astronomer's capabilities, their platform, their use of Apache Airflow to manage data workflows, machine learning pipelines, and AI integrations. She even smiled while saying, "We've been thrilled so many people have a newfound interest in data workflow automation." It was surreal. Instead of damage control, the company went full satire. Gwyneth didn't mention Byron. She didn't say Kitt's name. There were no apologies, no explanations, just polished PR disguised as quirky self-awareness. The timing, flawless. The video dropped just days after the resignations. It immediately went viral, not because of what it said, but because of who was saying it. Why was Gwyneth Paltrow suddenly the face of a data automation company? That was the question on everyone's mind. Was this a brilliant rebranding tactic? A distraction? A joke? A smokescreen? No one could quite tell. And that was the point. The Gwyneth Paltrow cameo left people speechless. On one hand, it was completely ridiculous. On the other, it was weirdly effective. For a brief moment, the conversation shifted from scandal to strategy. Marketing experts weighed in across social media. This is genius, some said. Leaning into the chaos and flipping it into brand awareness? Brilliant. Others weren't so sure. Feels tone deaf, one LinkedIn comment read. You can't use a celebrity to gloss over a workplace misconduct situation. But whether people were impressed or offended, the result was the same. People were talking about Astronomer. They were watching the video, sharing it, Googling the company, asking questions like, what even is Apache Airflow? Why is Gwyneth involved in a tech company scandal? Was this all planned from the beginning? Some conspiracy theories even suggested the company had orchestrated the entire thing to go viral. Highly unlikely, but the idea gained traction. When something feels too weird to be real, the internet fills in the blanks. Then there were the memes. Clips of Gwyneth's deadpan delivery were turned into TikToks. Parodies emerged. One popular tweet joked, Gwyneth Paltrow explaining data ops while the company is literally on fire is peak 2023 energy. Another called it the goopification of corporate PR. Still, for all the memes and mockery, the stunt had measurable impact. Astronomer's name recognition soared, their LinkedIn traffic spiked, and ironically, they got more attention in 72 hours than from any of their actual tech conferences or product announcements. Was it all clever branding, or was it a calculated gamble to survive a reputational storm? Either way, it worked, at least for a while. But not everyone was laughing. While many online viewers found the Gwyneth Paltrow stunt hilarious or iconic, others saw it for what it really was, a distraction. And for them, it wasn't funny, it was offensive. Critics, especially those in HR and ethics roles, took issue with the way Astronomer appeared to brush off the seriousness of the situation. After all, this wasn't just a PR hiccup. It was a high-level workplace scandal involving a CEO and the head of HR, people in positions of serious responsibility. Corporate watchdogs chimed in. A senior HR consultant posted, "You can't bring in a Hollywood actress to erase accountability. This isn't a joke. It's a compliance breach with real-world consequences." Several tech journalists also called it out. One headline read, "Gwyneth Paltrow can't fix your company's ethics problem." They argued that while the marketing team may have won the internet, they lost something bigger, the trust of employees. Because for the people who actually worked at Astronomer, those outside the executive bubble, the situation was very real. Some may have felt manipulated. Others might have lost faith in the company's leadership altogether. There was also concern about the precedent it set. If companies can hide behind humor and celebrity, what does that say to whistleblowers? To people afraid to report misconduct? Meanwhile, Reddit exploded with mixed reactions. One thread titled Goop, Gossip, and Gross Misconduct drew thousands of comments. Some users joked that the next Astronomer leadership retreat would include crystal healing and cucumber-infused Slack messages. Others, though, weren't laughing. Imagine being an employee watching all of this unfold, one comment read. They joke about data pipelines while the leadership pipeline just imploded. Still, for all the outrage and think pieces, the virality continued. The meme machine kept spinning. The TikToks didn't stop. And Astronomer somehow stayed at the center of it all. But underneath the jokes and the press coverage, one question still haunted everyone watching. What were Byron and Kit actually thinking? After all the headlines, the memes, and the resignations, one question lingered longer than any other. What were they thinking? Andy Byron was the CEO of a fast-growing tech company. Kristen Kitt was the head of HR, both seasoned professionals, both at the peak of their careers, and both surely aware that in their positions, scrutiny comes with the territory. So why risk it? Why share an intimate moment in such a public place? Why sit together at a massive concert, knowing full well how kiss cams work, and react with such visible panic when caught? Did they think no one would notice? Did they believe they were untouchable? Some say it was hubris, the kind that builds when success dulls your sense of consequences. When you start believing the rules don't apply to you, others believe it was denial, that they'd lived in the gray area for so long, they forgot it was still risky, that they convinced themselves their personal relationship was separate from their professional one, even though it clearly wasn't. And then there's the simplest explanation. They just slipped. They got comfortable, they got too close. And in one unlucky second, the mask dropped, broadcast to tens of thousands of strangers, and within hours, millions more online. But regardless of intent, the consequences were the same. Their reputations, damaged, their positions, gone, their company, embroiled in a scandal that required a Hollywood actress to distract the world from the wreckage. The irony, of course, is that a moment meant to be private was made permanent, frozen in pixels, watched again and again, replayed with judgment, ridicule, and disbelief. And all it took was one camera, 1 second, one poorly timed kiss cam. In today's world, the line between private and public is paper thin. One moment of vulnerability, one careless glance, one too close connection can unravel years of reputation, power, and control. That's exactly what happened to Andy Byron and Kristen Kitt. They weren't taken down by a lawsuit, a whistleblower, or a boardroom betrayal. They were taken down by a kiss cam, a 3-second clip at a Coldplay concert that exposed far more than a secret romance. Their exits from Astronomer were swift. Their silence was louder than any statement. And the company left to sweep up the pieces, using one of Hollywood's most polished stars as a makeshift bandage. And Gwyneth Paltrow? Somehow, she walked in, delivered a pitch-perfect piece of satire, and walked out with her reputation untouched. Maybe even enhanced. This story isn't just about workplace ethics. It's about perception, how fast things move, how thin the veil of privacy has become, and how sometimes the most jaw-dropping drama doesn't unfold on a movie set. It unfolds on the Jumbotron.